good negotiator. I'm not a good negotiator. I always wind up on the bad sides of deals. I just pretend like I'm a good negotiator so people think that I'm tough.
That's just in your head.
I pay $180 a month for my cell phone. If I go to flea markets, I leave with nothing. I once paid $8 for a Jamaican beef patty.
Was it good?
It was brutal. It was cold.
Nirvana the band, the show, was recommended to me by a human being that I've never actually met in real life. My parents told me never take recommendations from strangers, but here I am, helping the strange man in the white van look for his puppy. As you can imagine, I was skeptical of the show at first. It's an obscure comedy show with a weird name starring two guys that I've never even heard of. But all of my skepticism vanished after watching the first scene of the first episode.
Brontosaurus. Do you see it? It's a brontosaurus!
Real-life friends Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll star in the show as fictionalized versions of themselves. In real life, Matt Johnson is an independent filmmaker known for such films as The Dirties and Operation Avalanche, and Jay McCarroll is like the greatest piano player this side of Sergei Rachmaninoff. The dude's just a wizard on the keys.
Yoshi's trying to get up my ass. Am I doing the jump or no? Of course. I'm doing the cave boost like that. Yes! I don't touch pine trees. I don't touch palm trees. I don't touch crabs. I don't dodge the crabs.
In the show, Matt and Jay play a pair of local Ontario musicians who are desperately trying to land a gig at the Real Life Rivoli, an Ontario-based bar and restaurant that is also a home for performances by local musicians. Matt and Jay believe that a performance at the Rivoli is the big break they need to be taken seriously in the music industry. Like most sitcoms that came before it, most of those sitcoms coming after Seinfeld, Nirvana the band, the show, is a show about nothing. It's an absurdist romp filled with pop culture references, mostly from the 90s, and cleverly constructed hijinks that are just stupid enough to be believable. In the first episode of Season 1, the duo embark on a quest to hang a giant banner across the street from the Rivoli. In order to keep their composure, they keep recalling random moments from Jurassic Park, like the scene where Samuel L. Jackson can be seen smoking a cigarette. They can't believe how calm Sam Jackson is during this crisis, and they come to the conclusion that it must be the cigarettes. Cigarettes keep you calm, cigarettes inspire ideas. It makes absolutely no sense, and that's just a taste of this show's bizarre style. The duo take advantage of the mockumentary style by poking fun at its tropes, while also using the style in new, clever ways. The inevitable fourth wall breaks are brilliantly timed, and usually have nothing to do with the plot of that particular episode. It's either characters laughing, riffing, improvising, or finding a way to make fun of specific comedic tropes. There are even moments where they just flat out recognize the man behind the camera who's filming the show. The cameraman even has a name. The biggest reason that this show works is the relationship between its two leads. Matt and Jay are basically the only reoccurring characters in the show besides the cameraman, and you could tell that they are good friends in real life. It's a natural chemistry that can only be developed by years of friendship. Two average dudes who share a common irreverence for modern society. But even the show's R rating couldn't save it from the clutches of censorship. The jokes that Viceland found to be too dark are either taken off the show or just censored in the episode, which is pretty unfortunate. Most of the comedy stems from the fact that the duo have formed a band. They named it after another band, which is pretty legendary, Nirvana, yet they can never be seen recording a song or practicing their music. Matt is naturally the de facto leader of the band, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have any musical talent. The two friends are roommates, they're living in a 2-story house in Ontario, yet they are never seen working, they don't have any jobs, they don't pay rent, and they don't spend time with anyone other than each other. There are no romantic subplots, there aren't many female characters with speaking roles, and to be fair, there aren't really any male characters with speaking roles besides the two leads. The focus is on these two buffoons and their never-ending quest to land a show at the Rivoli. Every single episode in Season 1, except for one, has the same exact episode description. Matt and Jay try to land a show at the Rivoli. It's like a Sunday evening episode of Family Guy or The Simpsons or South Park. The events and plot holes from the previous week are completely ignored and a new adventure begins, which is just another version of the same thing they've been trying to do all season. These plot holes are absurd and cartoonish, but they're easily overlooked because the show just kind of ignores them. As opposed to his best friend Jay, who can play any song on the piano off the top of his head, Matt's real role in the band is devising the plans and publicity stunts that he believes will help them land a gig at the Rivoli. Their public hijinks are usually littered with unsuspecting bystanders who have no idea they are actually being filmed. Like Borat, Nirvana the band is a mixture of scripted scenes, improvisation, and real-life events that have effects on the plot.
Closing doors, please.
Well, hello, nice to meet you. And my name is Borat.
What's happening, man?
Nice to meet you.
Yo, get the fuck out of here before I break your jaw, bro.
Hello, ma'am. Would you like to be my G-friend?
In the episode The Big Time, Matt and Jay make an independent film about two detectives who sneak into a high school to take down a pedophile ring. They believe that if their film is a success, they will finally land that elusive gig at the Rivoli. The duo then travel to Utah, where they sneak their film into the Sundance Film Festival. This episode was inspired by Matt Johnson's independent film, Operation Avalanche, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2016. After the news of them sneaking their film into the festival gets out, they become pseudo-celebrities. Everybody wants an interview with the director of Operation Avalanche, and it creates a rift between the two friends. Earlier in the episode, Jay is telling Matt how he's tired of sneaking, that he doesn't like sneaking around, that every plan involves them sneaking, and they're constantly sneaking. And what happens? Matt sneaks their film into the festival, and he becomes famous. And there's a great purity to their relationship, even though in this episode you could see them kind of going behind each other's backs and backstabbing each other, trying to take advantage of one another. The funniest part of this episode is that Matt told Jay he was going to be the star of the movie, but he's basically only in the film for one scene, and he plays a pedophile. The fictional film from the episode is actually named after Matt Johnson's real film, Operation Avalanche, and this is even addressed directly in the episode.
Everybody's coming up to you. Hey, are you that guy from Operation Avalanche? That's the title of. I'm not sure how much do you guys.
There's even an unscripted scene towards the end between Matt Johnson and Kevin Smith. Once again, it's real-life events influencing the plot of an episode. And the conversation doesn't really impact the plot, but it's there. The opportunity presented itself, so they took advantage of it. It makes it feel more real than other comedies, like these two people actually exist in the real world. And then they do something completely crazy and stupid, and you're like, oh, this is not plausible. That's what makes it funny. One of the episodes focuses on Matt's discovery of Star Wars. He had never seen any of the movies before, and he's kind of embarrassed. He becomes obsessed with the franchise, watching all three original movies in a row on VHS, nonetheless. But because he sits so close to the TV, he goes blind for 48 hours. What sucks is that particular night is the opening to The Force Awakens, so Jay is forced to explain every detail of the movie to Matt. And they get kicked out of the theater, of course. And a joke that I didn't catch at first is that episode's opening credits are designed after the Netflix Daredevil show. At first I was like, why? What the hell? What's the point of this joke? It's like, oh wait, no, he's blind. By far the best aspect of the show is the surrealist element that's incorporated in every episode. There are just moments that make absolutely no sense. You can have an episode with an obvious through line, and then all of a sudden that line just gets completely blurred, and they introduce something that wasn't even discussed previously. It's really absurd, and that's the type of humor I like. Sometimes it feels like they're being weird for the sake of being weird, that there's no method to it, but most of the time it works. I mean, there's an entire episode that takes place at a Chinese buffet. That's all you need to know about the show. That could have been the review. Nirvana the show. There's an entire episode that takes place at a Chinese buffet. And I have to say, the final episode for season 1 is one of the funniest half hours of comedy you will ever see. It's so bizarre and absurd and ridiculous. It's perfect. The only real criticism I have of the show is the show's title. I'm a big title guy. I study titles. I worship titles. I love titles that are short, sweet, and phonetically pleasing. Raising Arizona. Great title. Rolls off the tongue. Metal Gear Solid. So cool. Doesn't make sense, but it's cool. Roman Holiday. Perfect combination of those two words. Me, myself, I'm not great at coming up with titles, but I know a good title when I see one. Nirvana the band, the show, is just a terrible title. I mean, just imagine asking someone at work, hey, have you ever seen Nirvana the band, the show? The average person cannot process that much information. Nirvana, the band, the show, it's a show based on Nirvana, that stupid band that everybody loves. It's a documentary. Is it like an MTV Behind the Artist special? It's too confusing. TV shows need titles that are short, sweet, and great for recommending. Hey, have you ever seen Mr. Robot? Great recommendation title. Overall, it's a confusing show, but it's a great title. But that's really my only gripe with Nirvana the band, the show. I know the title is supposed to be a joke, that these two idiots named their band after Nirvana, but Pick another name. Comedy is such a subjective and personal art form. It's like music. I don't like recommending my favorite comedies or favorite albums to people because if they end up not liking it, it feels like a personal attack. I would only recommend Nirvana the band the show to you if your comedic preferences are in line with shows like The Office and movies like Borat. So if you're in the mood for something that is just completely absurd and often hilarious, this is the show for you. And before I go, I want to quickly thank our Patreon supporter, Ryan Covert. Thank you for your generous pledge. Because of his pledge, he was able to pick one movie, video game, or TV show for us to review. So I want to thank you first for your pledge, and second for the great recommendation. You can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/nerdsoup, and you can see the different rewards we offer to our Patreon supporters, including choosing a movie, show, or video game for us to review. So thank you again for watching. Like, share, comment, and check out Nirvana the band the show. And sign my petition to change the title.
That's you.
Now the opposite guy.
Oh, yeah. I'm Andy, and I put things in the way. You want to get a shot at Jay? I'm standing in the way. I like to get in the way. I do it every day.